Allah umdali wetu Allah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Allah, you alone do we worship, and you alone do we seek for help. Guide us into the straight path and the path of those whom you have bestowed your favors upon, and not of those who have earned your anger. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you and the mercy and the blessings of Allah. Again, you are sitting in conversation with Soweto Muslim Association. Soweto Muslim Association, the only association that was established with an intention of promoting, propagating, and making sure that there is a success amongst the indigenous Muslims of South Africa. The first indigenous Muslim association ever established. We bring you again another exciting segment and episode with personalities of Islam and the personalities that have traversed and they have gone through a lot of challenges in life. But more than that, we are celebrating their success. Those who have made it in Islam, and those who have made it through their families, and those who have become a beacon of light and a hope to the future of Islam amongst the indigenous Muslims. Today, allow me to indulge you with a personality. This personality is a former head of University Commission and a current public relations officer of the African Youth Association, also known as AGD. He is also an entrepreneur, activist. He is also an ʿālim of Islam. He is a Ḥāfiẓ also of the Quran, and a PhD candidate at the University of South Africa. His doctorate thesis is on Islamic leadership, self-sufficient and sustainable development in the fourth industrial revolution, and artificial intelligence, that which we live by today. He has a wider research interest revolving around the themes of Islam, the 4 IRs, and the South African socio-economics and politics, and this is none other than Maulana Mthokozisi Ibrahim Maseko. You are welcome to Soweto Muslim Association. Maulana, how are you today?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, and thank you for having me first. I am fine, alhamdulillah, with the grace of Allah.
Alhamdulillah, it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure, an immense pleasure with us that we have you with us today in the studio of Soweto Muslim Association. This is one person that I must confess that has been a person that over a period of time I've taken very serious in this journey of Islam. A person that I've known few years, or maybe I would say extensively good years of Islam, that I had known him through Soweto. A man that hails from Springs as well. Ekase Soweto would refer to him as Umalankane. You don't find very much of us Ekase say Umalankane. Umalankane Lona, and I know him as a very gentle giant. Maulana, please, it would be very great for us to learn today on who you are, which it has been a very great journey as well to find you. It's very hard to find you. You are a very busy person. But today, alhamdulillah, we get to sit with you and understand who you are. Who is Maulana Mthokozisi Maseko?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So, Mthokozisi Ibrahim Maseko was born to Uheri, who became a Muslim. This is a person that brought Islam first to a family, Yagamaseko Kayagit, meaning from his children. But Islam was already in existence, was already there within the broader Maseko family, right? Umkhulu wami wasemfulo was a Muslim, and around the 70s already. And my father became Muslim later. And then he passed away. Then my mother remarried. I think this is now where the most important part of my life, the shaping and everything, actually took place, when my mother remarried for a second time, because I really did not have much opportunity with my father. He died when I was still small, was still young, and I didn't have the proper opportunity of the father-son relationship with him. But then when he passed away shortly thereafter, my mother married once more to another Muslim, Sheikh Sharif Uslike. He also became a Muslim around the 70s. A very interesting background of how he became a Muslim or how Islam came to him. My brother, now I call him a father. I call him my father. I don't call him a stepfather. And then I call his children my brothers and my sisters. So I hope you won't get lost there.
Yes.
So my brother, Abu Bakr, the firstborn Slike, got Islam in Lusaka around the 70s also. And then when he came to South Africa, my father, Sheikh Sharif, saw him Islam. When his cousin also was a Muslim, Babu Slike. So cousin Ntate Mtse, Ismail Mtse, was a Muslim.
Yes.
And then he then went to his cousin Ntate Mtse to actually get to understand more about this Lenkolole Izanendotana Buyelusak. And then he became a Muslim eventually, all of them in the 70s. And then that's how, so this is a man that raised me. This is a man that shaped my worldview, shaped everything that this is a man that made me a man. Under his guidance, I was inspired to go study further about Islam. But there's also a very interesting angle to that. So in the area that we were living in at the time, there was no imam. And then now, these elders were very passionate about Islam.
Yes.
But they didn't really have the opportunity of studying Islam.
Yes.
Very, very passionate. I think these are the people, the generation of the 60s and the 70s is a very interesting generation of Muslims, indigenous Muslims, in how you see the passion despite little knowledge that they have about Islam. And they were very, very, literally immersed into this, into the passionate about Islam. So he saw the need for me to go and study so that I can become sort of, the person that can share his knowledge,
yes.
Back in the community. He first took me to a Muslim school. It was a challenge for me because now going to a Muslim school doesn't necessarily mean that you are a sheikh.
Yes.
You just know the basic. The objective for me to go to the Muslim school was and a Muslim school we just started that time. We just, it was a new thing. Muslim school in Springs, I think around 95, 96 was just, it was just rolled out. And then we went in 97, among the first few indigenous Muslims in the area going there. Mm-hmm. And then the objective, it was a clear mandate there. And I think this is where now the roots of activism comes. This is where I think, if you were to ask me, when did you become an activist? I trace my roots of activism here in saying, when my father, Sheikh Sharif Slike, saw the reason I should go to a Muslim school and study Islam. In his view, it was studying Islam, but of course, when you arrive there, you are just like elementary Islamic knowledge that you are exposed to. After a period of time, I realized that actually there is little that I can source out or attain from a school. I need to go now to a much more established Islamic institution to focus on Islamic studies so that I can be able to, effectively contribute and share the knowledge that I have. And then I went to Tembisa. I studied there for 2 years, a course that is equivalent to an Imamat course. After that, I told him I want to go to Darul Uloom to do Ḥāfiẓ. Because I could not read Tarawih. And we needed somebody to read Tarawih. We needed somebody, an imam that can read Tarawih, that can do the salats, the 5 times daily salats. So I then went to a Darul Uloom, I did Ḥāfiẓ. And then each and every year, for the period that I was doing my Ḥāfiẓ, each and every year I will then do Tarawih there. For the few juz that I memorized, we'll be doing the Tarawih as well. And that's how basically, eventually I did ʿālim course, and then eventually became an imam. But it began with Sheikh Sharif identifying the need of somebody that needs to come and share the Islamic knowledge in the community. And of course, the age issue in terms of his generation being that I cannot go to school and study Islam. So you are the young one. myself and my brother, you are the people, like, so that's how I ended up going to, that's how actually I ended up being an imam. My intention was one day I'll study, become an imam, come back to my community and serve, because my father, that was his dream.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's very interesting because you mentioned also Baba Ismail Motsei.
Yes.
Baba Ismail Motsei, not very long ago, they were in this studio because he's one of the founders of Soweto Muslim Association, stroke maybe the first mosque that you find in Soweto. And he was interviewed here. He gave us a very beautiful history, which we pride ourselves with being in Soweto. But also we see the active role that was actually played as well by Ubaba Sharif, that he played in making sure that you go and get yourself equipped, or rather maybe go into the Islamic education that was there. But I know myself personally that you didn't just learn Islam, but also you became very active. You became an activist. Because I know personally that you are the founder actually of the Gauteng Muslim Shura Council. And you have played an amazing role that maybe today people do not know, that the idea of finding the Gauteng Muslim Shura Council stemmed from you. I think maybe it was influenced by that journey of being an activist. But maybe that leads to the second, understanding you better. The second question would have been that of the journey, your journey span in terms of academia. You're moving now away from the Islamic world while you're still having it in terms of business, activism, and deen. How did all of these worlds come together for you, and which of them actually shaped you the most growing up?
So, of course, what shaped me the most growing up was my father, Sheikh Sharif Slike, sending me to a Muslim school. And then with the passing of time, you then realize that there's actually more. If you trace going to a Muslim school, realize that actually there's more to this than this. Then going here, then realize there's more to this than that. Going to the Darul Uloom, you realize there's more to this than that. And this is actually what led me to going to to university. But to be more specific, when I was an imam for a period of 5 years, I was an imam in Pretoria, Lotus Gardens, and then I also became an imam in Soweto, Rockville.
Yes.
Yes. I discovered, or I came across the realities of, being an indigenous Muslim in a township, and the challenges which are multifaceted, which are so complex that the tool set of being an imam is far from being enough. It's far from enough in able to tackle those challenges. Because if you remember very well, as an imam, people come to you with different kinds of problems, and you are not trained to really tackle those problems. But the hope and you are entrusted to solve those problems. So when people come with all those different problems, you realize that actually I need depth. I need to go further so that I can be able to, share or maybe assist or contribute.
Yeah.
So going to university was, that inspiration is saying, okay, now I've completed ʿālim course, I'm a Ḥāfiẓ, and I still feel that I still have time under my belt. I'm not done. It's not like maybe a person will say I'm still young enough, or maybe I still have time in my hands. I felt like this cup is not full.
Yes.
Let me see how I can fill it more than this. So that's what then led me to going to university. And of course, the main thing, or the main skill set that I wanted from the university, was the ability of finding advanced tools of problem solving tools, in saying, I know that a place that a person can go to acquire tools to solve problems is a university. I might not know where to go or which door to go to, but I know in order for me to be equipped with tools, I need to go learn, study more. And this is what I actually sought after. This is what I desired going to university, and of course I was not disappointed.
Normally what happens is this: we grow up, all of us, with this background of Islam and understanding that we should go through those traditional learning in terms of Islamic sort of way of understanding things. Whether you go through the tradition of learning fiqh, which is Islamic jurisprudence, you learn what is called hadith, the prophetic traditions that are there, and other things that may be there. But with us as the indigenous community, we are a community that was never actually exposed to the greater heights in terms of this education in traversing or maybe expounding on the issues of going to the varsity level. And we have seen it with many of your likes and others that are very few amongst the indigenous Muslims that have actually gone and surpassed this level of just learning Islam at an elementary level and going into the varsity level. And not only that, but also expounding on the issues of Islam, which I'm very proud that you are a PhD candidate right now. And your PhD research looks at Islamic leadership and sustainable development within the context of Fourth Industrial Revolution. What drew you to that topic, and how do you hope it will benefit the Muslim communities in South Africa?
Right. I think this is a very potent question, very important, especially when you say that once upon a time you were an imam and you wanted to contribute to community. So what is the link, and how do you continue doing that with this? So with this in particular, this was a niche area that I identified. So basically the general rule in academia is that when you are looking for a research, you need to look for a niche area. You look for a research that is an area that is less expounded, less explored. And I found this as a less explored area, where you find that people explore the area of Islamic politics, right? And how can that be of providing the solutions to sustainability, sustainable development in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is the age of technology. And the benefit from that to, I believe, my community is basically the future. When we are solving problems and we are looking for solutions of the current, we need also not to be short-sighted in realizing that some of these problems might be more complex in the near future. So when we are solving a problem now, try to make it sustainable for the future and say that I'm solving this problem, I'm solving it once and for all.
Correct.
I'm not solving this problem so that the next generation can come back and solve it once more. I can give many examples, but maybe that's not necessary. But so let's take, for an example, the example of how we as a Muslims, it's actually the general, I can say, approach or behavior of Muslims globally right now. But I'll localize it and say the South African Muslims, and how we have just sufficed with doing things Muslims. We want a Muslim school. We want a Zakat institution that serves Muslims. We want an NGO that serves Muslims. We want, everything is just Muslim only. It worked, I think, 25 years ago. It worked even before that. I can say 25 years ago and beyond, it was working. But when you look at the future, it's not sustainable. Why is it not sustainable? It is not sustainable because it does not help much. When you only think within the frame of yourself, you don't engage with the world around you. You are not attracting the world around you. You are not influencing the world around you. Your influence is very limited. And your influence might die with you. Right? And the perfect example of the current Muslims in this age is the Muslims in Cordoba, in Spain.
Yes.
In how for hundreds of years, they were happy with being a minority in Spain. They didn't labor much into saying that, you know what, we actually should be engaging with the world around us. And I'm not blaming them. I'm saying I'm taking this as a case study now, as an academic, and say this is a case study of a Muslim community that existed for a very long period of time. When you look at South Africa, you find that South Africa is 365 years. Islam has been in South Africa for 365 years. in Spain is probably 500-600 years,
Yeah.
somewhere around there. They were happy with being a minority, and then eventually now they are extinct.
Yeah.
And the masjid, the biggest masjid in Cordoba, is a museum, right? So if I were to take the very same case study and apply it to South Africa,
Yes.
I would say if we were to solve problems along the prisms of Muslim-centric or Muslim-only approach, we are falling into a similar trap of Spain.
Yeah.
Now, my research is an attempt of saying, let's engage with the world around us. Let's engage with the fourth industrial revolution. Let's engage with sustainability in thinking about our communities in a sustainable way, in saying, if I am building a Muslim school now, is this going to be relevant in the next 100 years when I'm gone? This is 3 generations, right? In the next 3 generations, is this still relevant or not? And what causes things to be irrelevant is actually this technology, as we can see how technology is really a very major disruptive agent. You know, how a lot of things they actually lose their essence.
Yes.
And their relevance because of technology. So sustainability is very key for us as a South African Muslim to think about everything we do. We have to think of self-sufficiency and sustainability, because these are two sort of phrases or themes that go along one with the other.
Yes.
And then we cannot have a conversation of self-sufficiency and sustainability outside the fourth industrial revolution. We are seeing empires crumbling. We are seeing the US, for instance, when you compare US and China, what makes China to surpass, to have an edge over the US right now is technology. It's nothing else.
Correct.
So there are a number of things that have influenced the topic, apart from the idea of when you are going to research, you need to look at a niche. But the niche that I looked at was the niche that spoke to these things that I'm speaking about. That I see the indigenous Muslims as the future of Islam in this country. I see ourselves as people that are already, we are in a very interesting transitioning phase where our children will be what we desire to see in terms of Islam, right? And of course, there's a lot to say in that, but I hope I've answered the question. Let me stop there.
It's very interesting because it's, you know, with what maybe to follow is that now you are in this academia space in where you're not just traversing through understanding what academia stands for and what it inculcates in you as a person in terms of your growth. But also with that, you had a very interesting responsibility, not just becoming a candidate at the university or maybe getting into that space of understanding the development in terms of education and your research space. You also were tasked with having worked with the university students and the youth through the African Youth Association. What are some of the biggest challenges and maybe potential you are seeing in the young Muslims today?
I think the space that I'm in is a very interesting and a very exciting space. Okay, I shouldn't say I think, I should say it is exciting to me, at least, because coming from a background of an imam, you deal with a lot of people in terms of dawah and in terms of conversion. You know, people are converting to Islam. But dealing with academics and students is a very different dynamic, because you are dealing with thinkers, you are dealing with future scientists, you are dealing with people that you don't simply just say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, repeat after me, but people who might have questions and say, but why La ilaha illallah? Why shouldn't I just say it in my own language? And then you need to step out of your comfort zone and explain them calmly. This is why you need to say La ilaha illallah. This is why you need an Arabic name, even though that doesn't mean it's replacing your indigenous name. But having an Arabic name is also good, because you're part of the bigger community that is outside South Africa. And so the challenges that I've witnessed, that I've noticed is this space is a space that has very little investment in terms of development, in terms of dawah, in terms of taking care of the people, not taking care as in like babysitting,
Yes.
but focusing on the fact that there is a section of Muslims that are young and they are intelligent and they're in universities and they have questions and they are very energetic. How do we, what institutions can we put in place to accommodate them?
Yes.
Right. We have your I think it's IPCI,
Yes.
the institution that, you know, Ahmad Didat's institute that deals more with the issue of people that are interested in understanding the difference between Christianity and Islam.
Yes.
You have different kinds of, you know, dawah sections or sectors in that angle, and kinds of resources and investment in that area to accommodate that kind of audience, you know,
Yes.
people that are coming from that background. But we do not have much investment in the area where we're talking about academics that are becoming Muslims, and they have questions and they are vibrant and interesting. You know, they actually have, they are a different breed altogether, not in a bad way, of course. And so this is challenge number one. The Muslim community in South Africa needs to look at this issue and identify that each and every community, in order for it to thrive, you need professionals. And if we want to invest in the future of Islam in this country, we need to pay very close attention on university students, because this is where professionals come from.
Yes.
And then the second challenge is, or probably this is one whole huge challenge, that if I speak about it, all the other challenges will be speaking back to this one particular challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Let me then go to the potential. The potential is, this is what actually makes it very exciting.
Yeah.
A lot of these students that I've come across, I can say 99% of them are indigenous students, and very intelligent.
Yes.
I mean, you speak of students coming from the STEM disciplines, your science, technology, you know, and then you speak of the different, these, we're talking of kids that, you know, have the ability and the potential of creating your spaceship, like Elon Musk.
Yes.
Right? We're talking of kids that are like inventors of gadgets and technological devices, especially when we talk about, you know, the fourth industrial revolution. Here we're speaking of, you know, people like that. Talk about lawyers, talk about, so when we say that in order for a community to succeed, to thrive, it needs professionals. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he moved from Makkah after the Battle of Badr,
Yes.
part of the ransom that was made for the captives in Badr from the Quraysh was that you need to teach
them. Yes.
the Muslims
Yes.
for a certain period of time, and then after you have taught them, then you have then earned your freedom. The Prophet ﷺ focused on professionalizing the community, in saying that we need to have people with skills. We need to have people that can read, can write, that can do things, you know. So of course, that captive that is captured from Quraysh, from the Quraysh army, can only teach what they know. If a guy is a carpenter, is going to teach carpentry. If the guy is a poet, is going to teach out. So this is how we need to understand that the Prophet saw this need in saying, my community needs to be equipped, needs to be skilled. And here, the indigenous community is in that very interesting phase.
Yes.
Where the future, for the first time, perhaps,
Yes.
in our history in South Africa, and not in a bad way, but in a very positive light, in saying that we have a good number of indigenous Muslims that are very well professionalized. And we have seen this happening. We've seen how, you know, professionals and experts have assisted the growth of Islam in the Indian Muslim community. We have seen how it has also worked within the Malay Muslim community. I think the same is now very closely likely to happen to us with this generation, inshallah.
There was an outcry before the outcry, maybe, but there is a beautiful piece that you actually wrote in where you were speaking about this Muslim students that are venturing into the varsity space, in where now they start to ask questions that are more into the space of the 21st century, or if you like, maybe the artificial intelligence questions that relates to Islam, which it was very interesting to say we are evolving and developing as the indigenous Muslims of South Africa. But also maybe the interesting part, it would have been that we are moving away from becoming the professional beggars as the society within the indigenous Muslims to professional people that are actually now forging the future. As you say, it is a very interesting space in where there is a development in terms of that, where we will have, there was a time whereby the Indian community was concerned about the youngsters or the university, those who goes into the university as students amongst the Indian communities, that they now are more focused on becoming professionals more than they are focused on what the older generation used to do. Because the Indian community survives and thrives through the support and becoming donors of Islamic institutions and making sure that Islam survives, and maybe that it becomes very interesting then to understand what is really your view in terms of Islamic leadership. What does Islamic leadership mean to you? And how do we build leaders who are spiritually grounded, but also socially and economically active in this space where we find ourselves in South Africa?
The question of leadership in Islam, Islamic leadership within the context of South Africa, in my view, is a very interesting, very robust, and probably I'm not sure if people are ready to hear this view. If we look at the transformation of this country, and I'm going to take it there because we are people with a history, we are people with a background. We are not the people that just emerge from nowhere.
Correct.
And the background informs, the past informs the future. And this is where I'm coming from, and saying if we look at the background and the development of this country, it always came at a very pivotal, like there were moments, there were times that actually shaped the future of this country. Whether we're taking it from the time of Oshaka,
yes,
and we're moving on right up to the times as Opambata, right? And then we go down Ohinza, we even go into the period now, the first indigenous political organization that was formed, right? And then we move right up to the emergence of the ANC, the breakaway of the ANC, of the PAC from the ANC, the emergence of the Youth League, right? Those are very interesting period that actually indicate that in South Africa, the future has always been shaped by individuals that are of the special character.
yes,
And I'm speaking about South Africa because I don't want to be subject of correction when I say, maybe I generalize it and say this is the reality in every way.
correct.
Right? But probably it might be a reality to a great extent. But I don't want to dwell there. I might be, I want to speak within South African experience.
Yes,
Saying that individuals have always been the people that actually, led change, transformation. So, similarly, when we talk about a leadership caliber or a leadership personality that will first unite the Muslims in this country and be able to take Islam further from where it is, I believe we need someone that will be, and of course, like I said, I hope people my view, people might not be prepared to listen to it and probably might even, be uncomfortable with a number of people. We need the kind of a Muslim Mandela. A Muslim Mandela that will emerge within the indigenous Muslim community. And this Muslim Mandela is going to be a rare gem. I don't think we have them. I don't think we have him as yet. I think he's yet to be born And if he's born, he's somewhere not anywhere close to politics in terms of the social politics and economics. And this is my view of the Islamic leadership, leadership in Islam in South Africa. Why? Because after observing and understanding that in South Africa, personalities have always been influential. The South African community, the South African society act cohesively when they are behind a leader that they feel. It's like they are waiting for a right person. It's like they are waiting for, I don't want to say a Mahdi, but they are waiting for someone to do something. They are not people that will just initiate change by themselves. Somebody will emerge that will tick the right boxes, that will move the people, and that person will then drive them towards transformation. And this is a similar thing that will need to happen in Islam, in South Africa. And which I believe will be the beginning of the realization of what I'm speaking about in saying the indigenous Muslims are the future in this country. I think everybody has had their chance, and it's not in a bad way of any shape or form. When you look at the Malay Muslim community, there are things that they have done which are unique and they still stand out right up to today. If I were to break it down, I would say the Malay Muslim community are the foundation and like the backbone of Islam in this country. When you look at the Indian Muslim community, they institutionalized Islam. These are the people who mastered the idea of building Islam through institutions. And they got it right. They actually hit the nail on the head in building institutions that will enable to carry Islam since the 70s and the 60s and going forward, right? The role of the indigenous Muslim community will be different, just like how the Malay Muslim community played a different role. I mean, when you're talking about somebody that wrote the Quran in prison, even now, it's not an easy feat to execute, to carry out. It's not an easy thing to do, to be in prison and write the Quran from memory.
The likes of Tuan Guru.
Exactly, this is what I'm speaking about. When you're speaking about someone that, they built a masjid with stones, putting them together, just stones. When you speak about people that will find innovative ways of making salah, people who actually, not just only making, people who actually invented a language. Afrikaans was invented by the Malay community. This is a major historical contribution. And when we talk about the institutionalization of Islam by the Indian community, you understand that these are major efforts that were done, right? But they are different. You look at what the Malay community did, you look at the Indian community, what they did, these are different. The indigenous community will also be doing something different. And it will begin with this Muslim Mandela that I'm saying, who will first unite this Muslim community, a person that everybody will be prepared to listen to. I will hold it there. Thanks.
Look, like you said, it might be a thorn maybe to some of the people. It might not be palatable. It might be very difficult to swallow, the idea itself, but it might be workable as well. If somebody has to look at it from the positive view or a positive perspective, that may be there. But arguably so, you'd find that, yes, Indians have institutionalized Islam, and of course they have done it very well. And you find also with the impact as well as the input of the Malay community in which they have actually done it. But the fact of the matter remains to say they've actually done it for their own communities. And maybe that's what leads to saying that the indigenous community might need that Mandela Muslim or Mandela Islam or Mandela vibe, that they call it the Madiba magic, that might change and transform the communities of Muslims within South Africa. Not because we Muslims are there to say we want to impose ourselves into the greater community of South Africa. We form the greater majority. We are the greater majority as the indigenous people of South Africa. And within the indigenous space, we are seeing the transformation as well as development that is there. But you being in that space, and we understand that we are in the space of this changing technology. There's this change in technology as well as the economics. What does self-sufficiency look like for Muslim communities today especially in the areas like Soweto. Of course, you would refer to many townships that are there, particularly that self-sufficiency with regards to the changing technology as well as the economics.
So development and sustainability and self-sufficiency, but more self-sufficiency, is an idea that says build with what you have where you are standing without stretching your hands, reaching out to the external. So you are an indigenous Muslim who is born in Soweto, who is born in a community, you come from a community that many people are not Muslims. You're probably the only Muslim in the family. You have to hustle to eat halal. You have to hustle to make salah. You have to hustle to say even to make nikah. Everything is a hustle for you. This now, do all those things without necessarily reaching out. And I'm not saying reaching out is bad, but I'm saying self-sufficiency means that you know that this is what I have, and I'm going to suffice with what I have, and I'm going to build. Not to say sufficing is a good thing, but I'm saying I'm not going to neglect and saying no.
Yes.
I only have 10 rands. I can't do anything. I only have 10 rands. I need to ask other people to give me so that I can have 1,000,000 rands. No, I have 10 rands now. All right. How can I take these 10 rands to 1,000 rands? This is self-sufficiency without reaching out to people like from on the side. And of course, the answer is you need to make some effort.
Yes.
And you need some patience. So the answer will include that. And then you will be being prepared to do that, taking the 10 rands to 1,000 rands, and then taking 1,000 rands to 100,000 rands, and then 100,000 rands to 1,000,000 rands.
Yes.
By the time you reach into 1,000,000 rands, that's when you will be ready to, you are ready to build whatever you want to build. You are ready to build a masjid if you want to build a masjid. You are ready to build whatever institution you're talking about, right? But while you still have a 10 rands and you say, I want a masjid, it's not yet time for you. You have a different struggle.
Yes.
Right now, your struggle is to raise your 10 rands into 1,000,000 rands, to then think about the masjid. And this is a very interesting developmental attitude, actually, because naturally, when you do that, you even acquire the skills over time, which will enable you to run the institution you want to build. So if you are building from 10 rands to 1,000,000 rands over a period of, say, 10 years, in that 10 years, you will have mastered the way of running an institution. You have not cut any corners. You have not take shortcuts, right? I'll make another example. I want to have a supermarket, or maybe I want to have a big factory, but I only have 10 rands right now. So I have to start with a tuck shop. I'm not going to look funding from government. I'm not going to look for funding to government. Hey, government, here are my papers. I'm 100,000 ngizovula tuck shop. That's not the right way of development. The right way of development is I want to run a supermarket, I want to run a big factory. I have 10 rands right now. It means that I need to start with a tuck shop. But even at that level, it means that I need to select certain items of a tuck shop and start with as a hawker, selling in the street or selling outside the school, and then build up my stock like that. Over a period of a year, I move, and then eventually I move in half a tuck shop. Eventually I get a full tuck shop. By the time you arrive at the factory, you have the skills of running a factory because you've come from the grassroots. You are organically made to run that institution. So this is self-sufficiency, and development works in that way. So when we talk of development, where we talk of US aid, we need funding from outside, funding from from the US, funding from wherever. That has never developed, and that has never, if aid and interventions like that have never developed anyone, because by when you arrive at a conclusion that I need to reach out, I need somebody to give me this X amount of money, it means that it's not yet time. You are not ready. It's just, that's an indication that you are not ready yet and you are rushing. So izokhula lento ijahayo. You should start where kumele uqale khona wena ula uku-10 rand wena. And this is where also the issue of the generational discussion issue comes to play in saying you need to know that some of the things that you desire and wish for are not things that you can achieve now, but are things that will be achieved by your children.
Yes.
And you need to be prepared for that and saying that I'm going to die without seeing this dream into fruition. But I know my children are going to live that dream.
Yes.
So a lot of us are not prepared for that. We want to dream, we want to accomplish, and we want to eat the fruits.
Instant goals.
Everything, like an instant, porridge. But life is not like that. It's never like that. And that's why we end up being, cutting corners and then end up being professional beggars and doing all, because I want to eat the fruits now. But the fruits are not meant for you. When you plant a tree, it's going to take a couple of years for the tree first to actually, a number of years for it to bear fruits.
Yes.
You want it to bear fruits tomorrow. So you're going to cut corners and we end up, not even getting a proper tree. You end up stealing other people's fruits.
You just nailed it, because this is within the mission and the vision of the Soweto Muslim Association. And I must say with a little bit of pride that we are within those parameters where we are working towards that development. And just last month, it was the Youth Month. We had a lot of the youth that were showcasing what they've actually started with Soweto Muslim Association. And this is the youth desk that is registered. And the youth amongst themselves also, they had sought to start businesses. And you've just hit the nail on the head. They've started their businesses. And as I am speaking to you right now, for a week, we've been having a training for our youth under the NYDA. And it's giving them a training. And they're doing very well, by the way. And not long ago, we have also been, the community of Dlamini itself, in that Dlamini Masjid, has been very fruitful, has been very well-wishing to us to develop and become very successful as a community, to an extent that we already have now the shop space that is there that we are going to develop. And you had just spoken to what we always speak about, to say we may not realize those successes right now, but our children will do that. So we have to be the generation that wears the overalls, and our children will wear the suit and tie.
Yes.
And by that, we would have already paved the way for them to become successful as the indigenous Muslim community, and moving away from the so-called generational curse into a generational wealth that we would have left with our communities in order for them to thrive. Which then says to us, Maulana, while we had this beautiful journey with you yourself, and understanding who Maulana Mthokozisi Ibrahim is in this short space of time, it would be our pleasure and honor if maybe you could then finish us with an advice that is within this line, an advice that you would give to the young Muslims who want to get involved in community building, Islamic learning, or leadership, if you like, but feel unsure of where to start.
Bismillah. It's a very loaded request. I will try to break it down, and hopefully if I am not fulfilling the request, please feel free to remind me that I'm swaying out of subject, I'm swaying out of topic. If you are a senior person, say you are 40s and above, those are the seniors. If you are in our generation and you are an indigenous Muslim, the advice that I will give you is that you need to be patient, and you need to realize that all your efforts that you have done, they have not gone down to waste. All your effort of propagating and promoting Islam, they have not gone down to waste. So what will be a waste is when you haste in trying to saying, you know what, I've not achieved what I've done. Of course, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he made the Hajjatul Wida, at that time it could have appeared as though he had not achieved his goal in taking Islam to the world. And this is what he said in saying that those who are here today should pass on the message to those who are not here. But he understood that his mission was accomplished within the 23 years of time, of period, even though it was only Makkah and Medina, which was like two towns compared to the empires that became Islam in years to come. So the efforts that we have done, your da'wah, your teaching of Islam, anything that we have done for the sake of Allah, they are not in vain. Be patient. Be patient. A lot of them, you'll see them in your qabr. A lot of them, your children will realize them, and the future generation will realize them. If you are the non-indigenous Muslim community at large, you need to realize and notice that your work of propagating Islam and preserving Islam is also not unnoticed. The transition that is happening is a natural thing that happens with life. It's a natural thing. There comes a time where the father is substituted by the son. Where the father was looking after the son is now the son that looks after the father. And it's just the nature of life. It is not something that has to do with anything with the Indian community failing to do and Malay community failing to do. We all have our flaws. At this point, we're looking at the positives. So whatever effort that we have done, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you as a community for that. If you're a young man, indigenous and non-indigenous Muslim, you must realize that we are in a very interesting time that presents opportunities and challenges. It first presents opportunities in a sense that we are in a perfect time where we as the South African Muslim community stand a chance of our diversity, our rich history enables us to be the leaders of Islam in the world. And I know I might sound as though I'm far-reaching, but your children, you and your children are likely to see that. We'll be dead, we'll be gone by that time. So identify that reality, identify that opportunity. And the challenge now is that at this point in time, Islam is under siege. We are trying to find ways of preserving Islam for the future. You are our hope, and we have that responsibility. In terms of those who want to get into development, I believe, and then there's another question.
Yes, it's exactly the same of those who want to go into leadership, as well as who feel that they are unsure of where to start.
Everybody is a leader. If you want to know where to start by developing yourself. Because everybody is born. There is no idea of a born leader. There is no such a thing. There is an idea of in which area you want to lead. But now, before you arrive there, you need to identify that the true essence of leadership is leading yourself into something of greatness. If you cannot lead yourself into greatness, then you cannot lead anyone. You need to lead yourself into being a better human being, being a role model wherever you are, as a young man, as a young woman, at school. You need to focus on ensuring that you are a good example first. And not for the sake of being a good example, but for the sake of being a good person who will potentially be a good leader. The interesting thing about leadership is understood in the personality of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he became a Nabi at the age of 40, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam already was known as a good person. Why was it there? Why was he called Al-Amin and As-Sadiq before he even became a prophet? It is because leadership begins with personality. You need to be a good person first. You need to lead yourself to something great, something of achievement. And that thing can be anything, whether it's getting distinctions at school, whether it's ensuring discipline, ensuring that you always come on time, it's attending your lessons on time, whatever it is, discipline, dedication, determination, all those things. So it begins with that. Once you master that, people, then you naturally you'll be ready to lead people. And remember, you don't appoint yourself in saying, I want people to follow you, or I want people to follow me. That's not leadership. People will appoint you. People will follow you. And this is whether you are educated or not also. It's not even about education. It's about personal development. How dedicated are you? How determined are you? How do you take things serious in life? People will follow you because they want to be like you. If you are not a person of good example, a person that is a person that sets good example, what is there for people to follow you? What is it that is special about you? But if you're a person that people can look up to, you must know they are following you because they want to be like you.
That is Maulana Mthokozisi Ibrahim Maseko, who have indulged us with his journey of Islam, his journey of life. These are some of the greatest qualities that one needs to look after. As indigenous Muslims, we pride ourselves with some of those who have achieved, like our own Maulana Ibrahim Maseko. Next time we won't say Maulana Ibrahim Maseko, he would have added already a title to him to be a doctor or a professor, if you like. And this is what we want to see being achieved. And leadership, it is something that you don't ask for. It's something that you work towards in terms of your character. We have so many people today who say that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi for presidency, we don't know if they've looked into his character and all of that. The country is facing a totally different dynamics right now. And we are to see if really the character of a human being, the character of a person that we want in terms of a leader, is it that which shows the character, the greatest of character, like we have seen in the character of many of the prophets, and our final prophet, Prophet Muhammad, who has demonstrated it very well in terms of leadership. You were in conversation with Soweto Muslim Association. Continue to follow us, subscribe to us on our social media spaces, whether it be Instagram, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Facebook, but continue to follow us and add those positive views and add the positive value into our society in South Africa that needs a lot of positivity where we are right now. And we close today our segment with Maulana Mthokozisi Maseko, and we say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.